In about 185 BC, Pushyamitra Shunga took over the throne of the last Maurya king. His dynasty ruled till 73 BC. This is known as the Shunga period in Indian art. The Shungas worshipped Hindu deities and were also benevolent to the Buddhist Sangha. The earliest significant body of Buddhist art was made under their rule. Early Chinese pilgrims mention that Indians created vast numbers of stupas simply by piling stones and bricks. It is a practice which continues in the Indian Buddhist states till today. Just placing a few pebbles, one on top of another, creates an object of worship. For divinity is seen in the whole of creation. The followers of the Buddha enshrined his mortal remains in a number of stupas. Thus began a tradition which spread to many countries and continues till today. Later stupas house the remains of other great teachers, their personal belongings, and also Buddhist teachings. Around 100 BC, a great stupa was made at Bharut, in the eastern part of present-day Madhya Pradesh. The railings of the stupa and the one surviving gate are kept at the Indian Museum in Kolkata. This is the earliest stupa railing to have survived. Inscriptions here show that the reliefs and figures were donated by lay people, monks, and nuns. The 9-foot-high railing or Vedika and the gateway or Torana are made in imitation of the wooden architecture of that time. The railings create a path for the devotee to walk around the revered stupa. As he proceeds, stories were made on the railings to remind him of the virtuous qualities of the Buddha. Jatakas, or tales of the previous lives of the Buddha, are used to exemplify the rules of conduct in everyday life. These stories continued previous folklore. Images of yakshas and yakshis come to us from times immemorial. These embody the spirit of nature and serve to remind us of the divinity which underlies all that is around us. They represent the protection of nature and its great fertility, which ensures the continuance of life. On the left of the north gateway is Kubera, who symbolizes abundance. On the same pillar is made the Yakshi Chandra. She holds a branch of the Ashoka tree above her. At Bharut, these are the earliest such images, which were to become prolific in later art. They embody the procreative urges of nature. The tree longs for the touch of a beautiful woman to then burst into blossom. Holding the Ashoka tree here, she is known as an Ashoka Dohada. Dohada means a two-hearted one, who bears a child and is filled with the longings of the two hearts within her. She entwines herself like a creeper around the trunk of the tree. The Hindu deity of prosperity and abundance, Lakshmi, is also made on the Vedika. This is the earliest image of the deity. The whole of existence is seen as deeply connected. All around us is a part of the greater one. Therefore, the artist sees no problem in joining different forms of plant, animal, or human life in a fully harmonious depiction. On a pillar of the gateway is a procession bringing relics to the stupa. We are constantly aware of the cosmopolitan world in India at that time. A pillar of the Vedika brings a depiction of a Greek warrior. He wears boots and a tunic, has short hair and a headband. On another railing we see a Nagaraja, a serpent king. He is in human form but has a serpent hood. Like yakshas and yakshis, Naga deities serve to keep us conscious of the power, the protection, and the fertility of nature. Serpents appear in art from the Indus Valley times and continue as Nagarajas in popular Indian imagination till today. Many of the roundels in the Vedika have lotus medallions. Human figures are also made inside these. In Indic thought, the lotus is a symbol of purity and of rising above the mundane, of transcendence. The Vedika reliefs depict many scenes from the life of the Buddha and from his previous lives. The Buddha is himself never made in this early Buddhist art. Instead, there are symbols which indicate his presence. In early Indian art, the focus was not on individuals, and there were no portraits even of kings who were the patrons. In fact, in the Chitra Sutra, the ancient Indian treatise on art, it is the eternal themes and not personalities which are the fitting subject of art. The focus in the art of the early stupas is one of the ethical message. It is this ethical message which is contained in the Jataka stories made on the Vedika. This roundel depicts the story of the Buddha when he was born as a virtuous monkey, the Mahakapi Jataka. Many incidents of the story are shown very skillfully in a small space. The tale is told in a continuous narration in which the same figure appears several times. There is no attempt to imitate the passage of time. All time and the significance of each moment are eternal in this vision. There is no need to separate the episodes of the story with frames signifying a before and an after. One of the marvelous aspects of the art of this period is that sublime character, rare even in humans, is presented in the sculpted animals of the Jataka stories. This is a view of the world which makes no distinction between the life of man and that of the animals, and even plants and trees. The figures of men and women are part of the harmony of nature and are endowed with a generous sense of well-being. There are no groups. Each appears to abide peacefully, self-contained, in the place assigned to it. In the first half of the 1st century BC, a stone railing was made around the most revered Buddhist shrine around the Bodhi tree at Bodh Gaya. The depictions here are in shallow relief, as at Bharut. The manner of telling stories has now become more abbreviated, without as many details as were seen earlier. The city of Vidisha, present-day Besnagar in Madhya Pradesh, was on the trade route which connected the plains of the Ganga to the western coast. Among the earliest objects to be found here is a large stone pillar with an inscription on it, dated to about 120 to 100 BC. It was set up by a Greek devotee named Heliodorus in honor of Vasudeva, a name of Lord Vishnu. Monumental stone figures of the Shunga period have been found at Vidisha. These include this impressive representation of the Yaksha Kubera, the Lord of Wealth. At Sanchi, on a low hill next to Vidisha, are the finest surviving early Buddhist stupas. Halfway up the hill is a stupa which contains the remains of prominent Buddhist teachers of the Maurya period. The railings or Vedika made around the stupa dates to around 100 BC. The Vedika has medallions and half medallions with reliefs. Corner pillars at the entrances are fully carved. The deity of prosperity and abundance, Lakshmi, is here being lustrated by 2 elephants who pour water over her. The relief is shallow and the style is similar to that of Bharut. The greatest surviving Buddhist stupa of the BC period is on top of the hill at Sanchi. It is likely that it would have enshrined the relics of the Buddha. The stupa was originally made in the 3rd century BC. There is an Ashokan pillar at the southern entrance of the stupa. In the middle of the 2nd century BC, it was doubled in size and its older wooden railings were replaced with massive stone ones, 9 feet high. By the end of the 1st century BC, the Satavahanas, kings of the Deccan region, extended their rule to central India. They worshipped Hindu deities. However, major stone renovations here in their time made this stupa one of the most significant of all Buddhist monuments. 4 gloriously carved stone gates or toranas, 34 feet high, were made. They were completed in the 1st century AD. 631 inscriptions on the toranas tell us that the carvings were the donations of the people of Vidisha. The art was created for gardeners, merchants, bankers, fishermen, housewives, householders, nuns and monks. Almost half the donations were from women. The massive Vedika or railings are plain and without carvings. The toranas have 2 upright pillars, which support 3 horizontal bars or architraves. Between the pillars and the architraves, on the east and on the north, are superbly made elephants. The west gateway has dwarfs. The one on the south has lions. The dwarfs or ganas are made with rolls of fat and vast bellies which bulge over their dhotis. They have individualized facial expressions. Ganas continue as a favorite motif of the Indian artist in the centuries to come. They deepen the sense of the reality presented in the art, where the humorous and the sublime coexist, reminding us that everything has its place in existence. The veneration of nature's fertility and abundance, as seen at Bharut, continues here. 24 auspicious women are made as bracket figures on the gateways. On the east Torana is a beautifully made Yakshi, who holds the branch of a mango tree above her. The notion of the creative vitality of nature and its fruitfulness is convincingly portrayed here. Though she is physically attached to the matrix, she is treated as though fully in the round. All the details have been carefully articulated on the rear too. As at Bharut, we pass male figures at the entrances. One figure is in Indic garb, a dhoti and turban. Another wears Greek garments and carries a foreign type of shield and spear. The reliefs on the Toranas bring us the Jatakas of the Buddha's previous lives, as well as events from the life of Gautam Buddha. The setting of the stories richly reflects the lives of the towns and villages at the time when the art was created. The Sanchi reliefs are the most important visual record of the architecture and lifestyles of the period. The focus is still not on the personality of the Buddha. Buddhahood is still represented by symbols. The wheel represents the first teaching of the Buddhist Dharma. The Bodhi tree represents enlightenment, while footprints and an umbrella over a vacant space proclaim the presence of the enlightened one. An excellent example of the narrative scenes is the one depicting the dream of Queen Maya. According to Buddhist lore, the Buddha came to Queen Maya as an elephant in her dream and entered her womb. The Toranas of the stupa at Sanchi present a view of the overflowing activity of life. Whereas the figures at Bharut were single ones, those here are in large groups of many figures. They are in a variety of poses and in the midst of exuberant life. They are no longer depicted only frontally. Instead, three-quarter profiles are also seen. The Sanchi artist depicts a wide range of expressions effortlessly. Here is a vision of the world which sees the unending rhythm in all of creation. The vine of creative blossoming moves with a pulsating life. It brings to us life in many forms: flowers, fruit, animals, humans, and mythical creatures. Another smaller stupa at Sanchi contained the relics of the Buddha's close disciples, Maudgalyana and Sariputra. The one Torana here was also made under the rule of the Satavahanas in the 1st century AD. The stupa at Sanchi has an inscription on the eastern gateway, which mentions that the exquisite carvings on the gateways are the work of ivory carvers of Vidisha. While great monuments were made in stone, there was a parallel tradition of smaller figures made in terracotta. Numerous such figures of the Shunga period have been found in North India, and these present a very vital and widespread tradition. One of the bustling ports in the time of Ashoka was found buried under present-day rice fields on the eastern coast of India. Some of the finest terracottas of the Shunga period have been found here at Chandraketugarh. The period from the 2nd century BC till the 1st century AD saw the emergence of artistic traditions which were to prevail in Indic art for all time to come. The human figure becomes central to the art and is used to personify philosophic concepts. The basic idiom of Indian art has been formulated.